7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
To pursue science is not to disparage the things of the spirit. In fact, to pursue science rightly is to furnish the framework on which the spirit may rise.
Welcome to the Endless Frontiers, your home for all things science, fiction, and science fiction. I'm your host, Jed Morgan, and welcome into episode 30 of the Write or Flight podcast. It's great to have you all here, whether or not you're watching on the YouTube side or the Kick side. It's great to have you here. I see Legatus Legionus, the Mod Supreme, is already doing the Lord's work on both YouTube and Kick. It's great to have you here, my friend. And Algrim the Strong is here before show starting as well, talking about some football with Legatus. I gotta be honest, I haven't followed a single thing. I don't know who won a single game of the World Cup. I haven't followed a single thing. Today at lunch, I had to travel somewhere for lunch today, and I went out to lunch with a few of my coworkers to a English pub, and it was a great little pub, not accurate whatsoever, of course, but it was a nice little pub, and football was, of course, on every screen there. So I watched a few minutes of it. I think it was Portugal playing. That tells you how in the loop. No, Argentina. Argentina was definitely playing. It might have been against Portugal, but Argentina was definitely playing. That really tells you how up to date I am. But it's great to see you guys talking about it in the chat. Let me see. Ginger Norseman is here as well, saying good evening, folks. Good evening, Ginger Norseman. And Dash is here saying 3, 2, 1, lift off. Lift off indeed. Oh, you guys were talking about hockey. Okay, I just assumed because it was sports related and the World Cup's going on. I just assumed. So that's my bad. I actually have a slight more inkling towards hockey than football. So that's better in my book. And yes, I'm saying football because the rest of the world sees it as football. So most of the people who are watching this, who would be watching the World Cup, call it football. And I know I do have a lot of international, especially British audience members, some Canadian audience members, so it balances out enough, I think. Ginger Norseman, I just know England won a game and Scotland lost a game. Oh, that's who I would have been rooting for. You're not really a sports guy either, Ginger Norseman. Yeah, I'm not a sports guy. I don't follow any sports at any level. I played sports growing up in high school. I played football, basketball, swimming. I did cross country a couple of years. I did Little League growing up, of course. So I did sports. It's not like I was a fat slob or anything who just hated sports, period. I enjoyed playing sports. I don't enjoy watching sports. I find it incredibly boring. I understand why people like it. I'm not one of those people like, oh, it shouldn't exist because I don't like it. No, I get it. I just have none of those feelings, none of those attractions whatsoever. Dash football on the screen? You mean soccer? Yes, I did. I did say football. I know. Take away my American card. I'd probably rather watch American football than soccer, but they're all pretty equal to me. I've been to baseball games. I've been to football games, American football games. I've been to hockey games. I've been to NASCAR. NASCAR is one of the most boring things out there. It's cool for the first 30 minutes, the first 50 laps maybe. And then it's 500 laps of the same thing. Unless a crash happens, you're just... And it didn't help that I watched it under Arizona sun, and everyone was getting heat stroke. That definitely doesn't help. Algrim, to the frothing depths with soccer? Oh, you're not a fan of soccer, Algrim. See, I knew I liked you. Good. Inclined to the NHL. Yes, that's definitely where I'd lean. I went to an Avalanche game when I was a kid, like 12 or something, and I really enjoyed that one. That's probably the most enjoyment I've ever gotten from seeing sports live, and the fights are a lot of fun. That's closer. I don't know the rules whatsoever. I never played it growing up because I've only ice skated once in my entire life, and it did not go well, not whatsoever. It was for a date when I was 19. I thought it was a date. Turned out it was just a hangout. One of those classic sitcom things where you think it's a date. Turns out it's just a hangout. And I ended up embarrassing the hell out of myself because I could barely stand, let alone ice skate. So yeah, I haven't done it again either. Same with Formula One, just dull. Yeah, even that, I get it. I do understand why people like these sports. But my brain just floats away when I'm watching sports. Even the Super Bowl, I enjoy the food, the camaraderie of Super Bowl, but my brain just detaches from reality, and my eyes might be locked on the screen, but I could not tell you anything that was happening, most likely. It's pretty bad when I watch sports. Algrim, we need to work on Jed if he truly thinks the NHL is boring like soccer. Go Avalanche. Okay. See that's the only team I saw. I think I was in Denver when I saw that one. But yeah, the NHL is closer to what I'd be interested in because of the fights. I mean, I'm going to be honest. It's the fights for that. It's the crashes for NASCAR. I'm a simple man with simple wants. And yeah, hockey just I'm more impressed with hockey because it's doing a lot of the normal sports stuff, getting ball, or in this case puck, over into the opponent's goal. But they're also dealing with ice skating, which is a lot more difficult. So I'm impressed by hockey to a much larger degree than I'm impressed with other sports. They're still star athletes. I'm not trying to take that away from them. It's just personally, I'm more in awe, which helps me enjoy it. But I don't know if I could watch it from home. That's the thing. Even hockey, I'd have to be at a sports bar. I'd have to be hanging out with hockey fans to really decide to watch hockey or go in person. Avalanche as a kid, darn youngling, never got to witness the great Habs-Norse playoff series. No, I am afraid not. I have no idea who they were playing or, what year it was. It was probably 2012 when I saw the Avalanche play. So, probably didn't see anything like a playoff. Dash, I'm just in for the booms in Blue Origin Sport. That is a sport I can get behind. Absolutely. I can get behind that sport. It's quite enjoyable, and I get the highlights. Everyone just gets the highlights, and that's great. Ginger Norseman, I enjoyed the Mighty Ducks film as a kid. That's as far as hockey goes with me. I enjoy a lot of sports films, which is weird. I hate watching sports, but sports films, there's so many great ones like Remember the Titans, or when it comes to hockey, Miracle with Kurt Russell. Oh my god, that film is incredible. Don't care about hockey, to a huge degree, but that makes me care about it. I love sports movies, which is weird. I'm going to be honest. It's weird that I like sports movies as much as I do. Of course it depends on the sport, but I can get into any sport in a movie if it's well written. Like, I even got into Secretariat because I thought that film was good when I was a kid. Teenager. I enjoyed the movie Secretariat from 15 years ago, 10 years ago, and that made me care about horse racing. And then I found out what horse racing actually is like in practice. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to stick to this movie. Maybe watch Seabiscuit because everyone loves that. I still have never. But yeah, sports movies I love. Dash, Dodgeball is the greatest sports movie. That is an excellent sports movie. I saw it for the first time last year with my wife. It was a lot of fun. Absolutely a lot of fun. Welcome in. Let me see. A Riz vocals. Here we go again. I'm not sure what that's in reference to, but welcome in. Let me just make sure I didn't miss anyone from Kick. Nope, just a bot. Of course, more bots. I am really close to making the decision to stop streaming on Kick, at least for non-gaming streams, because it's just all bots over there right now. It's all bots. Got a slap shot with the Hanson brothers. I'm not sure what that's... Oh, is that in a reference to Dodgeball? I don't remember the names, unfortunately, from Dodgeball. I've only seen it once, but I did really enjoy Dodgeball. I'm not a Christian. That's been made evidently clear, probably through this channel, but there's one Christian film that's also a sports movie that I found to be extraordinary. If you've ever seen Facing the Giants, you know what I'm talking about. That movie is legitimately well made. I love Facing the Giants. I haven't seen it in over a decade, but God, that is an excellent film, whether or not it's about sports or Christianity. It's absolutely incredible. I did not expect Right or Flight of all podcasts to start out with a sports discussion. Slapshot is a hockey movie. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Okay. Yeah, I only know about Miracle and Mighty Ducks when it comes to hockey movies, so I might need to check out Slapshot. Yeah, I did not expect sports, especially non-World Cup sports, because you all immediately were like, yeah, screw soccer, let's talk about hockey or whatever. And I love it. I'm all right with it. I need to try to be into sports more than I am, because it's shut down so many people who are trying to be friends with me. Someone's being polite and they're like, hey, what sports team do you follow? It's like, I'm sorry, I'm not really into sports. And I've seen them immediately shut down. In their eyes, you can tell I will not be their friend. And they're just like, oh, okay, yeah, I was just trying to reach out. And then they're done. It's like, I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to say that it's bad to be into sports. And yeah, even with my new boss, I had a moment like that where he's like, really? Not into anything? Okay. But of course, he turned out to be absolutely incredible. I love my new boss, and we had more things to have in common. So it worked out absolutely. But having at least a knowledge of current sports will be beneficial for me just in social life. I understand the rules of a lot of sports like football. I played it well enough to know how things work. And I can, like to my wife who knows nothing about football, when we watch the Super Bowl, I can explain to her what's going on, why flags are thrown and stuff like that. I don't know anybody's names. I knew Tom Brady because of the Ted 2 movie. I knew Peyton Manning because my grandfather was obsessed with him. I knew Eli just because he wasn't Peyton. And that's about it. That's really about it. Algrim, anyone who drinks Edward Dyer is good with yours truly. Yes, if we can talk about whiskey, I will absolutely be your friend. But watch the NHL anyway. I'll have to check out the NHL. That's the only sport that I can think of. I don't even care to watch the Olympics anymore. But NHL has the best shot of getting me into sports. Legitimately, the best shot is for the NHL. I don't know, does the NHL play any games with Canada? I know there was that big one a couple of months ago where America beat Canada, and it was kind of funny. But I know Canada is very into hockey, so maybe they have a good league. Legatus might be able to tell me more if the Canadian league is better than the NHL or comparable. But yeah, that would be the one sport I could see myself getting into. I'm just glad we don't have to talk about football. I find soccer very boring too. They don't score. Come on, you can have so many games end in ties and nothing happens. Wow, he's a good jogger. Oh, he started running. He's running now. Oh, no, they're all jogging again. That's the excitement I see from soccer. Like in the pub today, my boss and a coworker of mine, we were all eating out together, and we were none of us are soccer fans. So we're watching soccer on this TV, and that's how we're watching. Is like, oh, that dude, he's jogging now. Oh, he's getting into a run. Yeah, he's running. Like we pretended to give a shit, and it was kind of funny. That's the closest. Legatus, RIP NHIC, CBC's hockey night in Canada. Really? They got rid of their hockey night? What's Canada without hockey? I don't mean culturally. I just mean, if you take away hockey from Canadians, will they still be polite? I worry about their national pastime being taken away from them. Algrim said, tell him, Legatus. Tell him, ambassador. It showed up differently, Algrim. In Restream, that comment came out as tell him, Legatus. In my YouTube chat, it came out, tell him, ambassador. I think it tried to translate Legatus on the YouTube side. Yeah, it did try. YouTube translated Legatus to ambassador for me. I've never seen it do that. That's wild. Ginger Norseman, I think the rules are just so simple with soccer that it makes it super accessible. That could explain it, absolutely, because I don't feel confused when I'm watching it. I mean, yeah, there's all the little tricks that have nicknames and stuff like it, but the rules seem fairly straightforward. Legatus, they first got rid of the iconic theme, then they could not afford the sub-license Sportsnet wanted. Okay, so it was a licensing problem, money issue. Dash, would Canada even survive without hockey? Don't Canadians spawn from hockey pucks planted in snowbanks? See, that's what I'm talking about. You guys still have plenty of culture up there that isn't hockey, but without hockey, is Canada even Canada? It's just English light land. I don't actually mean that. That's really mean, but I like that metaphor. Canadians just spawn from pucks in the snow, like dwarves in Tolkien, or at least the myth about dwarves in Tolkien. All right, we're about 22 minutes in, so we can dive into the first topic. I have 3 topics today, and they're going to be fairly short. We do have an active chat today, so I think we might get around to the chat Choose Your Own Adventure. We'll reevaluate, though, when we get to the end, because as I've mentioned on the last couple Rider flights, if the chat's not really moving, feeling into it, or anything like that, which is totally fine, we might not do chat choose your own adventure every time. It will be a case-by-case basis, I think. Algrim, hockey in Canada is akin to cigars in Cuba. Yeah, what other export does Cuba have of relevance to the world besides their illegal cigars, at least illegal in the US? What is there? What is there except hockey? This is a story from a couple weeks ago that I missed, and I feel like it's time to revisit it because there is a history of mainstream media lying. That's going to be the theme of today's stream, is mainstream media manipulating science news, just like they do all other types of news, to suit a narrative. The first part of this, though, is Artemis 3. A week and a half ago, the crew for Artemis 3 was announced, and the 4 brave astronauts that will be conducting the lunar lander tests and a few other tests in Earth orbit for the Artemis missions have been chosen. They seem highly qualified for their jobs. Very interesting crew. Unfortunately, it's not going to be as glamorous as Artemis 2, Artemis 4, or Artemis 5 will be. So at first, a lot of people weren't paying attention because, yeah, it's a test flight that isn't leaving Earth orbit, so who cares? I was not one of the people saying who cares, but a lot of people were. It doesn't have the same mainstream appeal as the Artemis 2 mission, but then something was noticed. Something was pointed out by all the far leftists who are upset with the current state of the world. Apparently, the all-male NASA Artemis crew creates backlash as priorities shift. I hate how it's worded that way. Here, priorities shift. It's implying the current administration is saying no women, which is absolutely not true. Christina was an excellent addition to Artemis 2, and you never know what the future Artemis missions will have for a crew. It's clear the best people were selected for the job because 2, if not 3, of the current astronauts are pilots in one way, shape, or form, and this is a pilot-heavy mission with multiple docking procedures planned and very meticulous, difficult maneuvers in Earth's orbit. You want pilots, and these are excellent pilots, but the mere fact that it wasn't women-heavy enough was enough for people to freak out, as put here. Luckily, Jared Isaacman came out and said, my goal is to select the best people for the job. He even highlighted there was an all-female mission that recently went underway. It's not a big deal. And I think a NASA astronaut in training, someone who's inspiring to be a NASA astronaut, who currently works at NASA, who is a friend of mine, said it very well here. Nicole B is someone that I'd like to get on my channel for an interview someday. She is in the astronaut training program, or a astronaut training program. She talks about it all the time on her Twitter account, so I'm not, doxing her or anything like that. But when this news came out on June 9th, and a lot of people on Twitter were freaking out, where are the women? Where are the women? There's, I think, the number's like 5 available astronaut women. So, yeah, when there's only a few available, there's going to be some missions that don't utilize them. Nothing you can do. But this is an example of one of those people freaking out. What the fuck? No women. Okay, bye. Fuck NASA. You can tell from the profile picture that that's Christina from the Artemis 2 mission. So this person was obsessed. And just look at the bio for some additional information if you want. But this person was all in on Artemis 2 like so much of the world. But just the mere fact that Artemis 3 wasn't carrying a woman into space was enough for her to say this. But Nicole had a great response here. They're just saving the Artemis 4, in my opinion. This is just a docking mission, but 4 is the moon landing. That's what she kept responding to everyone who's freaking out, is just, wait, there are more important missions coming up that will most likely have women. It's okay, chill out. But with articles like these, drumming up the backlash, acting like a couple of obsessed people like this who act like Disney Star Wars stans are influencing public perception of the Artemis program is awful. And the idea that, priorities have shifted, it's not about science anymore, or whatever the implication you take from that and these other headlines, no women on Artemis 3. It's not that big of a deal. There will be more female astronauts. We need to calm down and realize that maybe in a pilot-heavy mission with a finite amount of women pilots available, it makes sense why no woman was tasked to join the Artemis 3 crew. Everyone just wants a reason to freak the fuck out. Even if it's something that they like, something that they support, they're all more than happy to turn against it if, it can make them feel things. They just want to feel things, guys. They just want to feel things. Legatus, Canada also exported basketball to the US, but hockey is best. I did not know basketball was founded in or invented in Canada. That's interesting. Dash, their mad identity politics aren't the primary consideration. Yeah, if that's what priority shift is implying, that's absolutely true. Jared Isaacman was very clear that no, the priority is still completing the mission in the best way possible, choosing the best people. And that's a priority that should exist. So if that's all that they mean is they're shifting to that, or if, that's the reasonable explanation, that's totally fine. But yeah, identity politics, DEI, and stuff like that shouldn't be the priority. If I actually believe with the incredible astronauts that are available, there could absolutely be an all-female space crew. I'm all right with that. As long as, it's clear that they are qualified. And Christina was hella qualified to be an astronaut. She logged a lot of space time. So yeah, if Christina ends up being on Artemis 4 or 5, I think that's wonderful. There are some physical limitations that people will talk about, but in today's day and age, with the amount of technology and the EMU suit technology, the Prada that they're wearing, yeah, if there's a few more women, I really don't care. It's all about who's best for the role, and it's usually easy to tell who's there because of how they identify or anything like that, and who is there because they are qualified to be there. As long as they're qualified to be there, I don't give a flying. I'm gonna stop swearing now. Ginger Norseman, it's never enough for them. Even if they did everything on the lefty checklist, they'd complain and add more. Yes, absolutely. That's why you don't try to satisfy these people. Just like in pop culture, they're not a real audience. What you've got to do is do what's best for the mission, best for the story, in pop culture's case, and everything else will sort itself out. History will look fondly on the Artemis missions, I believe, especially now that they're underway in the new NASA administration with Jared Isaacman. They're not going to look back at how diverse we were or anything like that. History doesn't remember diversity. History remembers achievements, and achievements transcend race, sex, and creed. Legatus, that wouldn't move the goalposts yet again. It is never wanting more. It is never ending wanting more. Absolutely. Dash, not enough two-spirited cat boys on the crew? Oh god, can you imagine if we sent one of those furry freaks up into space? Can you imagine if a VTuber type person was the first person to step foot on the moon after the Apollo missions? I would be very upset. They come across aliens and we're representing humanity with some cat boys. I hate that you put that image in my head, Dash. I'm gonna spend forever getting it out. Algrim, that's just sexist, Dash, I'm gonna tell. Algrim, don't know who, but I'll tell someone or something. You're all just telling each other. Ginger Norseman, what's next? Complain there's not enough animals on the crew? There are people who would probably do that. We'd revert back to sending animals into space. Yeah, that might be an idea, but when we send animals into space, they don't come back. It's really hard to retrieve astronaut animals. So if we did that, yeah, PETA would be all over NASA, and it would be kind of funny. I do think there is a future in which the moon base has more than humans on it. We could absolutely get farm animals up there at some point. Maybe dogs, maybe cats, stuff like that. I think pets will be actually low on the list, lower than stuff like, I don't know what's a really good animal to have. Maybe chickens. I think chickens might be the first real animal taken to the moon because eggs, their size, they produce food in so many ways. They're a lot lower maintenance per food that they output. Of default farm animals, I think they're pretty high on the list. There might be some periphery farm animals that would be better. Don't take goats. We won't have a moon base anymore if there are goats taken up there. I had goats growing up, and I will not be silent about my hate for that animal. They are properly represented as iconography of the devil. They're just that evil. So yeah, they poke a hole in something, they get their horn stuck in something, and kill everyone on the moon. But besides chickens, I'm sure there's a better necessary option, but yeah, the way that chickens reproduce, they reproduce quickly. The eggs, the meat, the size of area that they require to be healthy. I think chickens might be a really good option to go to the moon. I don't know what you guys think. Is there a better farm animal that I'm not thinking of? Definitely not, cows, like milk cows, dairy cows, Holsteins when it makes sense. I really think they're one of the best out there. I can't think of anything better. And I just want to see birds, chickens, how they can, not really fly on Earth, how they react to moon gravity. That would be funny, honestly, to see them flapping around in 1/6 G. That's a comedy show on its own. Just live stream the hen house on the moon, and NASA will make some good dough on YouTube. I think that's a good plan for them going forward. They taste great, though. Goats, I've never had goat meat, but they're better dead. I'll just say that. Not the Snowpiercer cockroach, I'm guessing that's what that is, bug farm. I haven't seen Snowpiercer or read the book, or there's a new television show, I think, as well. I did not know they had a bug farm. That's awful. Legatus, considering they kill more animals than finding people to adopt the pets, what was their motto? Better dead than in captivity? Wow. Yeah, that's messed up. That's absolutely messed up. Holy hell. Dash chicken supremacy. I was actually talking to my wife about the classic chicken and the egg discussion. And I think I have an answer that makes sense evolutionarily speaking. But it is complicated. So, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Well, we do know, evolutionarily speaking, that chickens have a common ancestor with a lot of dinosaurs, whatnot. And the most likely, in my, admittedly not expert estimation, I think the egg would come first. A proto-chicken would have evolved to start laying eggs, and, the egg in the bloodline started before they evolved fully into what we would classify as chickens. So I'd say the egg came first. Even though it's from a proto-chicken, the egg still came first, and by the time it made it to chicken, eggs had been around long enough that I'd say the egg came first. That's my stance on chicken and the egg, which came first. Evolutionarily, it's pretty easy to answer, I think. Legatus, I'm sure the Weasel will have something to say about that, Dash. Oh, dude. Weasel, gonna get upset that I had a furry rant. Dash, what? Oh, first. You gotta be careful spelling the word first, my friend. First chicken egg was a mutant from some non-chicken. Absolutely, that's what I mean. Yeah, some proto-chicken started laying eggs, and that was weird, but it started working, and that behavior, that ability was preserved down the generations until they evolved into chickens. So, yeah, chicken egg came first, I think. Algrim, if they use the genus Lepus as the model for the farming animals on the moon, they'll all die of rabbit starvation before the goats and chicken get there. Ooh. I don't know what that's a reference to. Let me look that up because I don't know what that is. I just keep thinking of, since we're talking about Animal Farm, the new Animal Farm movie. I love Animal Farm, the book. It's absolutely incredible. An easy read. Great for middle schoolers to read. I think every middle schooler should read it. My kids are going to read it at a young age, but that movie just looks like an abomination. All right, so yeah, Lepus is talking about hares and whatnot, but what does the genus part? Genus Lepus are anthropomorphized hair-like aliens that stand on their digitigrade legs or their long ears. 5 years later fandom is what it's from. I am missing something there, and it looking a little terrifying. Welcome in, Anne Freeze. Count Von Count has finally decided to count again. Okay. Dash, genus leopard is a group of mammals commonly known as hares and jackrabbits, which are part of the family Leporidae. I can't pronounce any of those Latin derivatives, I'm sorry. But yeah, when I searched that full term, it only came up with 5 years later lore, and Lepus kept coming up on its own, but the genus part wasn't what Dash wrote. Okay, so if they use rabbits basically as the model for farming animals, okay, yeah, rabbits are their own monstrosity when it comes to taking care of them. Wabbits, boil them, mash them, stick them in stew. I know that's potatoes, but it's a rabbit stew. So whenever I think of rabbits, I think of potatoes because of Lord of the Rings. It's a long train of thought, but I get there every time. I have weird associations in my brain that I can't stop. I think most people do, though. Legatus duck season. I've gone duck hunting, I think, once. I'm not against trying again. I just haven't tried to renew my hunting license that I had in Idaho in any other state or anything like that. Figuring out what the rules are. It was a pain in the ass to get in Idaho, and I honestly don't have the equipment or the drive. But duck hunting, deer hunting I did. It was fun. You know, I think hunter safety classes are good just for weapon safety, if nothing else. But a few of you guys from not America might not understand what I'm talking about there. Like in Scotland, I don't think you guys can just get hunting licenses. Dash, what does the algorithm think Jed wanted furry fanatic? Maybe. Ginger Norseman, anybody else get really annoyed that Frodo and Sam never got to enjoy that stew? I do. That stew looked really good, Ginger Norseman. I'm glad I'm not the only one who was like, let them eat that. But damn, Oliphant showed up and distracted them, I think, is what happened right after that. Algrim, rabbit starvation refers to the fact that they are almost devoid of fat, and Phones and Mountain Men died more than once eating only rabbit meat sans additional fat. Okay. Jed, you were a hunter? I wouldn't classify myself as a hunter. I've said I went a couple times. I had a hunting license in high school in Idaho. It was never something that I was, passionate about or anything like that. I went a couple times. I knew how to use a bow, but I never shot anything. That wasn't, a matter of willpower or anything like that. The few times I went, we didn't see anything. The reason I got the hunting license, though, is I've talked about it before. When I was 10, I got a camcorder and started reenacting Lord of the Rings scenes with my brothers. They're absolutely horrendous. Maybe I'll try to dig up one of those for you guys because they're pretty funny in retrospect. But I started filmmaking, writing my own scripts, making my own short films, stuff like that. And by the time I was 15, I had a pretty decent reputation in southern Idaho for being, a filmmaker. I did some music videos for some people. If you guys know what doTERRA is, please don't judge me. If you know what doTERRA is, you'll have an inclination to judge me. Please don't. But some doTERRA saleswomen hired me to help them make a doTERRA-themed parody music video of Lord. What was that song that Lord did? The famous Lord song. I can't remember. Gonna be Royal. I think it's called Royal. But so a big hunter that I knew, he wanted to make a YouTube channel with hunting vlogs. So he was hiring me to do hunting vlogs for him. I got a hunting license so I could go with him, so I could shoot if I wanted to. And he took me hunting a couple times, and we didn't see anything, and then he got bored with the idea. Algrim, I'm retired Leo game warden in California. Really? Wow. That's really interesting. I wonder how California handles stuff like that now. I know outside the big cities, California isn't that bad whatsoever. There are just a lot of state laws influencing the rest of California that I'm not a fan of. But if you're retired, then yeah, you're probably, in a good era to be a game warden. That's really interesting, man. Uh, cool. Still awesome to hear that you were attempting it. Idaho is gorgeous country. It's absolutely gorgeous. That's where I grew up. Up in the southern desert. They call it the high desert. So just below the Rocky Mountain line, that's the upper 3/4 of the state. If you know where Twin Falls is, I was about an hour from there in one of those small towns in that area. But yeah, grew up in Idaho, beautiful country. We went deer hunting in the desert, and we went a deer hunting another time, I believe, up in the mountains. All we saw were coyotes. That's all we really saw while deer hunting. But Algrim, it's ironic because Mustang did the same job for the same department in California. I knew the Mustang did stuff like that, but I thought it was for like Texas or something like that. But yeah, I respect hunting. I wish I would have gotten into it more. And, that idea of living off the land is something that always appealed to me growing up. So, like, I tried to build log cabins as a kid, but without any education, they were absolute crap. I read a lot of Louis L'Amour books, so I LARPed as a frontiersman a lot as a kid. So the idea of hunting is something that I not romanticized, but I was very much interested in. I just didn't pursue it enough. And maybe someday I'll try again. My lifestyle has changed a lot since then. I've been living in big cities the whole time I've been an adult with Phoenix and Orlando. But yeah, I'd like to get back into it. What's the likelihood that 2 game wardens met on Adam's channel? It's not high, I imagine. I imagine it's not high whatsoever. But yeah, I'm sure Ginger Norseman has no idea what we're talking about over there in the UK, I believe he's in. They probably don't have that stuff. One thing that Scotland does have, I don't know if the rest of the UK does, but I just remember from being in Scotland, they have the right to roam. And that sounds nice. That's a right I kind of wish we had. I get why, of course, there's private property and stuff like that, but the right to roam on public land, wouldn't that be nice? Safely, of course. Of course, they don't have nearly as dangerous territory, so there's plenty of caveats to that I understand why we don't, but it's very, it's a cool idea, I'll have to say. Algrim saying Jeremiah Jed Johnson. My siblings and I, so I had 2 younger brothers and an older sister. We LARPed as a Old West village all the time. Like, we built little huts for everyone. It was a cowboy village, maybe a little pre-cowboy, like frontier, early 1800s type. So a little bit before the cowboy era. And we'd all have jobs. Like, I was the blacksmith and the miller. So when one of my brothers was a farmer, he'd bring his grain to me. I'd grind it down. We pretended our dogs were horses, so I'd, change their shoes and stuff like that. We were weird kids, honestly. So Jeremiah Jed Johnson wasn't a name that I ever used, but I don't remember what our names were, but I did have a frontier name that we used. I know not everybody knows this, but I wasn't born in Jed Morgan. My name growing up was Jared. So, I don't know what pun of Jared I would have gone with, but yeah, we did some weird stuff. Dash, I bet the UK has plenty of game wardens, even if it's not allowed to hunt. Algrim, great Scottish wood pigeons, delicious, great with Edward Dyer. When I was in Scotland, we went to one of the distilleries right next to the Highlands, not quite the Highlands, but really, really close, and I got to get a whiskey sample tray, as I think what they called it. It came with 5 shots. Like, they were like partial shots, so you're not getting wasted on one tray, but just a sampling. So I had to, take one, sit with it, let it mull over. I didn't want to do it too fast, not too fast at all, but I could just see myself having a great day at one of those distilleries. Those places were really cool. Jared Maya Johnson. Jared Maya. I could have seen myself. I made stupid puns growing up. I absolutely did. But see, we can dive into the next topic. They're going to be on a trend like I was talking about with the mainstream media lying. You're good, Algrim. I enjoy these tirades. But yeah, we do need to move on probably. The last 2 topics that I have are on that trend I'll probably divide them up, but if I need to, if I'm feeling it in the moment, I might combine them if there's a logical jumping off point. But let's dive into the next one. If you had any question whatsoever that the mainstream media manipulates the truth for clickbait, they rage bait, clickbait, whatever they need to do to get your attention and keep it for as long as possible. They will outright lie with attention-grabbing headlines like this. This is a Twitter post that I saw. It really jumped out to me to how insane the claims made here. So, scientists just discovered that fog is alive. And every normal person who sees that is like, there's no way. There's no way. And they might be enticed to click on that article, give this website clicks, which they do not deserve. Because do you know what research they're talking about here? Yeah, they're talking about, this tweet just has it all together. We've been studying microbial ecosystems in fog. Yeah, microbial ecosystems exist in fog, just like they do in water. Just like they do in rivers and oceans. It's fine. But journalists are like, oh my god, fog is alive, it's sentient. We need to stop letting them get away with this. This is pure fantasy. I cannot believe that they're stooping to these levels for easily disprovable nonsense. This is just an example of potentially harmless application of this mainstream media science lying. An example of it not being so harmless is Jared Isaacman. This sludge report says NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman bought up to $50 million in SpaceX linked stocks just before the record IPO. And I just used this article here because Jared does respond to it. I saw a ton of news outlets running with this, making a political argument about this, calling out Elon, calling out Jared, calling out Trump of all people, and making this huge political scandal. So many of the mainstream sites were using it. And initially, I think I saw the news while I was live a couple weeks ago. I said something like, oh, I don't like the sound of that, but I didn't say anything else because I hadn't verified it. I know, verifying information, such a crazy idea. Well, we get the context here, and a lot of retractions have since been made. So Jared just had periphery stock. He said here, I bought Shift 4 stock, the companies I started 27 years ago that serves predominantly hotels, restaurants, and stadiums because it was trading at a multi-year low and permissible under my ethics agreement. So that's what he bought. What he bought right now that they're referring to, that they claimed was SpaceX, was Shift 4, which has nothing to do with anything government-related or aerospace-related. I don't see any violation with that, especially since he has a history with it. He sold all his SpaceX stock and any indirect... he might have gotten stock beforehand. That's a little weird. But he sold all of his stock, any indirect equity exposure to it, and any other aerospace-related companies 18 months ago when I was first nominated for the job. $1 billion sacrifice I was happy to make to serve my country. I suspect it will be worth much less coming out of public service than going into it, and that is completely fine. They accused him of corruption, and it turns out his actions were actually against corruption. So yeah, he bought a lot of unrelated stock. So what? And he made sure that when he got appointed to this position as the head of NASA, that he got rid of any stock that could be labeled as a conflict of interest, sacrificing a lot of money to do so. I actually really respect him for this decision. This is what I want to see more administrators doing, more politicians doing. Honestly, he's being upfront, clear, and exposing these harmful lies, because it's already an uphill battle for NASA to accomplish any science in astronomy or space exploration. There's so much stacked against them from public perspective and honestly public ignorance that they don't need this additional dog pile of outright lies. So I'm glad some people are pushing back, some people publishing retractions, community notes jumping on it, but you know, the mainstream ones aren't going to apologize. They got clicks. That's all they need. And they painted their political opposition in a negative light. I find this disgusting. And the more and more I find out about Jared Isaacman, the more I like him and think he is the best man for the job to get us to the moon and ultimately to Mars. Yeah, that whole story pissed me the fuck off. Oh my god. I'm sorry if I keep swearing. If it bothers people, just let me know and I can go to a more conscious effort not to swear as much as I do. I was in the military. It is, you know, swearing like a sailor is a phrase for a reason, and it applies to all of the military branches. Let me see if I just want to verify for you guys. Jared Isaacman stock. Who are some big places that reported on it? Because I saw a few besides Sludge. I thought I saw, yeah, a bunch of investing journalist sites were talking about it. A lot of Twitter users were freaking out about it. And let me look up that fog one. I had the link for it, but that tweet was just really good. Scientists discover fog is alive. Yeah, it's from Popular Mechanics. Is where that headline came from. It was research done at Arizona State University. That's great. That was near where I lived in Arizona. But yeah, Popular Mechanics is the website that lied. Fog is alive, and that's a good thing, is now what their headline says. Fog is alive. And even ASU. Alright, so yeah, even the scientists involved were bullshitting it. It really pisses me off when shit like that happens. Ginger Norseman, yeah, was clickbaited by videos on that. LOL, didn't learn anything I didn't already know. Oh, you fell for that one? Yeah, fog being alive. I saw that in Supernatural. Alright. Legatus, a town in Quebec, made history by passing a resolution recognizing trees as living beings with rights and feelings? What? I have got to look up that. Thank you for providing the link. That's insane. That's bizarre. That shouldn't be happening. Yeah, respect trees. I'm very much of the, you cut down one tree, you plant two mentality. But this is taking it way too far. Dash. There's a hilarious SNL skit where a scientist makes a tree communicate. SNL of 20 years ago is the reality of today. Dash, just like Trump donating all his presidential salary to charity and selling off that DC hotel after donating profits from it didn't appease the nutjobs. Yeah, it's never going to satisfy the nutjobs. I don't like getting onto politics here, but when it comes into science, I will at least point out bias that harms science. And I've done so in both directions, and I want to do so in both directions. Like, I hate the cut in the NASA budget that's been proposed by the current administration. I don't want to get into who you vote for, why you vote for, anything like that. But when it affects NASA's budget, when it affects the ability of people to do accurate science, to communicate to the public accurately about science, yeah, I'm going to get involved in it. Legatus, only trees like tree ents, aka tree beards, are sentient? Oh yeah, those absolutely qualify as sentient. They did base the fog is alive after reading the Stephen King story? Probably. But I want to look at this article real fast. A Quebec town recognizes trees as living beings with rights. Like I said, I'm all for you cut down one tree, you plant two. That's a mentality that I absolutely can get behind. But giving trees rights and recognizing them as living beings is a bridge too far. You want to recognize the most intelligent of animals? Alright, I'll see an argument for it. Try to convince me that they're sentient and self-aware and intelligent. Sure, I'll absolutely listen to an argument of that. But plants, you're going to have to go to a lot of work to make me believe anything is sentient. Maybe there's a network of intelligence. There's some studies into plants that corroborate and become more intelligent as a group. Maybe there's going to be some breakthroughs there. but just to outright and unscientifically do this in a political setting rather than a scientific setting is bound to cause problems and just be laughable. So there's a small town that's recognized it, a resolution adopted. It declares that trees are worthy of protection, including the right to live, to natural growth, to integrity, and to regeneration. All right, right to life? Sure, if you're going to do rights, that's obviously going to be the top one. But to natural growth? Does that mean you're not allowed to trim trees anymore, even if they're on your property? That's going to be a problem, because trees going too big become a safety hazard. And sometimes, I'm sure it becomes a danger to the tree itself. But yeah, a natural growth cannot be a legal right if it endangers human beings. To integrity? What the hell does that mean? What's a tree's integrity look like? Do we lie to trees a lot? And now this is saying we can't lie to trees? There's no reason that integrity should come into this. And to regeneration? I don't even know how. How? Oh, and apparently it was inspired by a documentary filmmaker. Of course it is. And it's in French territory. I'm shocked. I apologize to all the Canadian French people out there. But yeah, I kind of guessed that it was French Canada. I'm gonna be honest. I immediately thought. I don't know if Quebec is a French-dominated area. I don't know Canada well enough. But the moment that something like this was happening, this bullshit. Oh my god. In the film, the filmmaker said, it convinced citizens that trees are living entities that breathe and communicate with each other through their root system. There are rudimentary research into that, but it's not concrete yet. A tree is like a human being, this filmmaker said. It breathes, it lives, it takes in water, it protects us from all sorts of things. Like what? Yes, trees are very important for oxygen renewal on our planet, but I'm pretty sure algae do more than trees. So what if it breathes? So what if it takes in water? Most anything that is alive falls into that category. That doesn't mean it's sentient with rights. Let me see. The International Observatory of Natural Rights says the town of about 2000 also became the first municipality in Quebec and Canada to sign this. That's great. Which is an international initiative spearheaded by environmental groups. So this isn't going to be the first one. There are environmental groups lobbying for this to happen everywhere. Maybe I need to stop making fun of flat earthers. These people might need to be next. Holy hell, we need a channel dedicated to these nut jobs. Its 3 core articles state that trees are living beings and are a common human good, that life on Earth depends on their existence, and that humans must act in fraternity and solidarity with them. That can be true, but not justify giving them the right to live however they want. Screw all humans in the way. This is, small justification. Yes, we need trees. Yes, we need to take care of trees to let the trees control the world. My god. I'm just skimming this real fast because I haven't read this article before to see if there's anything important. The new resolution means the town will review its existing laws and bylaws to ensure the trees are protected or replaced if they must be cut down. Okay, so they're still willing to cut down if they need to. He also plans to implement further measures to increase the canopy, including offering trees for residents to plant. In Arizona, I owned a house, which had an HOA, of course. There were these 3 rotted palm trees in the backyard that I could shake like this, like no effort whatsoever. They weren't tall enough to hit the house or anything, but they were a danger. So I took them out. I knocked them down safely, cut them up, got them out of the way, and it was fine. My house there, it had an 8-foot tall brick fence, and it was in the center of the block, surrounded on all sides by neighbors. There is no way that anyone from the street can see my backyard, period. I got a letter from the HOA. They tried to sue me because I cut down trees, and their solution was, all right, we'll let you get away with it this time, but we demand that at least 3 trees be visible above your fence immediately. I just responded with, so you know how trees, they grow? I'm not going to be getting a 9-foot, 10-foot, 12-foot tree off the lot without insane effort and danger to the structural integrity of my fence and my backyard and everything. The moment I explained to them that trees grow, they shut the hell up and never bothered me again. Not related, but yeah, the idea of residents being in charge of stuff like this, just being given seedlings, that's not going to necessarily work. I just always need an HOA rant because I think they're the scum of humanity, but that's a side thing. Trees are a true green infrastructure. They reduce urban heat islands, improve air quality, manage precious water resources, and protect biodiversity. What sucks is I agree with the science that they're saying. Yeah, that's true, sure. But they're taking a reasonable amount of science and using it to justify certifiable insanity. All right, and there's a tree ambassador. Oh my god. Our biggest ally is trees. Oh my god. We need to understand that trees have dignity and they have senses. Not sentiments, but senses. They can feel and they communicate with each other in very specific ways. Still, that's true. We do know that there's a shared ecosystem among forests. I hate that they're using real science to adopt or to justify this. So yeah, this is going to happen in more places. I don't want to live on this planet anymore. What type of world do we fucking live in? Thanks, Legatus, for letting me see that insanity. Thank you. I definitely needed that in my life. Ginger Norseman, perhaps they're Ents? Yeah, if they were Ents, I'd be alright with it. Dash, if a tree's rights are violated in the forest and no one hears it, did it Oh, did the tree The tree No, they're gonna for the tree. Because that's what they usually do. They get offended on behalf of other people who don't give a shit. Dash, the French contagion strikes again. Yeah, more people are infected with the French contagion. Legatus, so it seems they are against Christmas tree industry. Of course they are. I'm sure they are. And the whole lumber industry, which is kind of an important aspect of our modern world. No more homes can be built. No more books, magazines can be published. No more boxes to ship Amazon products. Yeah, as soon as they lose their Amazon rights, maybe these people will question their insane stances. Dash, so is this tree-loving weirdo an anti-vegan? If you're gonna go for trees, I want to see you go for every animal too. Every animal too. Like, don't kill bugs. Don't kill spiders in your home. Don't kill rats that climb in your mouth while you sleep. Or up other orifices. Dash, this seems like somebody trolled town politicians into buying into a hoax. It does sound like that. It really does. Legatus, if this was not reported in the CBC, I would have thought it was a Babylon Bee article or parody. The whole world is Babylon Bee. It's so bad when a parody site is no longer relevant. Because reality is so much funnier and more ridiculous than anything that they come up with. That's really the world we live in, and I cannot believe it. This isn't the world I grew up in all of 10 years ago. Bigfoot proposed the law. Bigfoot. See, I would buy that. He's protecting his forest. He's protecting his hideaway. That makes sense. I can buy that. Clown World, God. Clown World is taking it mildly. All right, let me see. Let me switch that to a day. So my last topic will actually be able to blow through very, very quickly, and it's fitting with today's trend of the media lying. A few weeks ago, SpaceX went live making its stocks available to the public, ending up as one of the biggest IPOs in history. It overnight turned Elon Musk into a trillionaire, the first known American dollars trillionaire, which is absolutely insane. No, I didn't jump on the stock because of how high the prices are, but I absolutely respect it. SpaceX might be overvalued in my opinion, but if this is what people want to spend their money on and inflate a stock, go for it. Just like a few years ago when GameStop stock went crazy. GameStop didn't deserve that high stock, but people wanted to do that, and, more power to them. It's fine. I think the people freaking out about SpaceX stock are ridiculous, and the people freaking out also often coincided with the mainstream media and a lot of crazy people on Twitter. The mainstream media just immediately freaked out, saying, oh my god, first trillionaire, Elon bad, oh, he know Trump, and making it political. You don't need to make everything in the world political. Some things are just not political. Now that it's out, though, there's the natural stock plummet. And they're using the word plummet that's a bit excessive at this point, but I predicted this when the IPO launched and it was as large as it was. I said on this very show that there would be a drop-off in the next few weeks, months, and years. And when there was a natural dip at a very good low point, that's when I was going to buy my stock. And once we went to the moon, it would go a lot higher and eventually Mars. So that's the point where I'm going to invest. This is not financial advice. I'm just telling you what I'm going to do. I predicted that it would go down. And yes, that's exactly what happened. But these same people who freaked out about SpaceX's IPO, that freaked out that Elon Musk became a trillionaire, saw blood in the water with the stock and started going off with this headline here. SpaceX stock tanks 16%, extending slump following post-IPO rally. There's a lot of articles out there like this, some reporting a 23% drop and just frothing out the mouth in excitement for this drop. Do you guys want to see this drop? So as of today's from opening today to now, yes, there has been a 16.4% drop today. But when we stretch it out to the entire time that it's been live, it went live on June 12th, and it's now June 22nd. So in the 10 days that this stock has been live, it went down 4%. No, we can't count the high that was the 16th. I mean, sure, maybe. We'll count that one, sure. That's still not as insane of a drop as they're making it out to be. But from launch at 160 on the 12th to now, it's a couple dollars different. You're making a mountain out of a molehill because of your political hate. I don't care what your political opinions are. Just don't lie to the public to suit your narrative. If this were actually down to $100, your headlines make sense. Put out those headlines. Great, absolutely no problem with that because that would be reflecting reality no matter what your political opinions are. But when you're acting like a 4% drop in 10 days after a massive spike, which I knew was going to happen. I said there would be a massive spike and then things would level off because that's how things work. But they're acting like this is some indictment of evil Elon. It's not an indictment of him. This isn't proof that SpaceX is doomed. It's not a 16% plummet. It's not a 23% crash. It's just 4%. 4% since it officially went live, but as Dash and Legatus is pointing out in the chat, you could buy a little bit before it officially went live for 135. So it's still up per share from that. This isn't some big disaster. This is nothing yet. So yeah, one day dropping 16%. Things go crazy in a day period. That's okay. There are a lot of days where there's a lot of change. That's why you look at the larger timescales to get context. Modern journalists are incapable of understanding the concept of context. There is only my anger, what supports my anger, what will make people click on it. That's all that matters to them. So I just wanted to point out, yes, this stock situation is dropping off a little bit, but that's completely to be expected at this point, and it is no way indicative of a problem at SpaceX. Again, none of what I said is financial advice. Do not make any financial decisions based on what I said. It's just the news, and it's very clear, 4% drop, not a 16 or 23 overall. They're using the day numbers to justify acting like it's a massive failure, and I think that's disgusting. Legata, SpaceX is trading around 154 per share. IPO price, it originally went public at 135 per share. Yeah, that's still an up from the pre-purchasing. People just want to hate. They're just rage baiting at this point. They're just clickbaiting at this point, everything they do. Just like JDA, York Torch, this isn't an exclusive thing to the left or the right or anybody else. I just personally, there's HOAs and bureaucrats, and then rage baiters just below them. Those are the two groups of people that I despise most in humanity, probably. At least, of the, non-criminal types or stuff like that. But those two types, those are the two types that I fully feel comfortable about pointing and laughing at and mocking for how fucking awful they are. Dash, it only plummeted from a massive peak. Yeah, and it's not even a plummet. They're reaching for straws. Algrim, I assumed whoever solved the puzzle, implemented the logistics of helium-3 mining, would have been the first trillionaire. Musk didn't even do that. He's going to help with that once we get to the moon, I'm sure. They're focused on that. And he even talked about recently how there were going to be trillions of dollars invested into antimatter power going forward. Now, invest in antimatter. That's frightening, a little dangerous, not necessarily as much as people think. Like, it's not angels and demons scary, but it's a great fuel source. Great fuel source if we can figure it out. And helium-3 will be a big one, mining in space for the next step. We need helium-3 to colonize our near solar system, but antimatter, warp, stuff like that, nuclear to a more efficient degree, like a thorium reactor, a molten salt reactor, something like that, to get the outer solar system, and then warp to get beyond. So antimatter, I think, should be the next priority after helium-3. And he might very well be the one who figures out helium-3. I think that's incredibly likely at this point. Dash, rockets have nowhere to go but up. So yeah, the stock has nowhere to go but up. Hammond, the Liza P boss is so hard I can't do it. I haven't played Liza P. I'm interested by it. I never heard if the story was good or not. That's really what appeals to me. Soulsborne games, from what I've experienced with Dark Souls 3 and watching people play Elden Ring, I was impressed by their world building, but it looked like they had no story whatsoever, so I wasn't interested. That's why I never thought about Liza P, because it is a Soulsborne-like game, but I absolutely respect people who play it. Those are difficult. So good luck, Hammond. Hopefully you're able to take out the Liza P boss. It's an interesting idea with Pinocchio. Absolutely an interesting idea. But that brings us to the end of the news segment. I think we've had a great discussion so far. Hammond says, story is good, world is gorgeous, combat is super fun. Okay, yeah, no, my impression of the story was really thin, but if you're saying it's good, I might need to check it out. Absolutely. I'll check it out. At this point, I think this is the moment where we need to evaluate if a Chat Choose Your Own Adventure makes sense at this point. You guys are a lot more active in the chat, so that's always a good sign. So I pose it to you guys. Are you guys in a creative mindset? Chat Choose Your Own Adventure doesn't really work if it's just me. And I'm not talking about super chats. Just having you guys to play off with in the regular chat is important to make Chat Choose Your Own Adventure work. So if you guys aren't feeling it, not a bad thing. We can just hold off for it for the week, or we can do it. You guys just let me know in the chat right now if you're feeling in a mindset to make another story of insanity, or we can wait till next week. We'll see what you guys think. We'll still play the plotter ad either way, and then wrap things up. But yeah, the Chat Choose Your Own Adventure segment, I think it's going to be a case-by-case basis going forward, very much depending on how many people are here. Like if, it's an off day, other stuff is going on, like the Neurotic Nooner happens to take place at the same time as Rider Flight. Obviously, my chat's going to be smaller. Won't make sense to do then. This case, you guys are very active, so I just pose it to you guys, how you guys are feeling, if you guys are up to doing the playing off of me that is needed to make it work. Because I've done Chat Choose an Adventure where it's just me, and it hasn't really worked. The stories weren't fun, they weren't interesting, they weren't entertaining, but we'll see. Algrim's happy to participate. Awesome. You have a new character in mind. Nice. All right, how's everyone else feeling? Ginger Norseman, I'm good to have a crack. Awesome. All right. You two are two of the most active people, so I think that'll be enough for us to decide to go forward with the Chat Choose Your Adventure. We'll always see how long it goes. They vary in length. Dash, I just exercise the last few stories out of my nightmares, so I'm ready again. I have to do that too. I honestly have to do that. So yeah, if you guys, it sounds like you're absolutely on board. So let's move on to the Chat Choose Your Own Adventure segment of this stream right after a quick word from the sponsor of today's stream, Plotter. This video is sponsored by Plotter. Every writer knows the drill. Staring at a blank page, characters ghosting you mid-plot, timelines unraveling like a bad sweater. That endless loop of what happens next, sucking the joy out of your story. I lived it. Outlines and chaos, competing storylines driving me mad. For the longest time, my notes were thick, blocked-out paragraphs, and my outlines were never-ending bullet points that stretched for more pages than my first drafts. Then I found Plotter, my plotting lifeline. Visual timelines that snap into place, drag-and-drop scenes to tame the wildest arcs, character sheets that keep everyone on track. It turned my latest novel, a 200,000-word juggernaut, with multiple character perspectives and solar systems worth of lore, into an easy-to-understand, trackable project, complete with the series Bible, multi-track storylines, and lore documents that make world-building a breeze. And check out their latest feature, a seamless note-taking system for all those story and character ideas that don't have a home yet. Available for free to all users of the Plotter app. For pro users, your notes and files will automatically sync across devices with cloud storage. If you're tired of the plot purgatory, use my link or scan the QR code to get Plotter for life with a single payment of $150. Your epic won't write itself, but with Plotter it'll flow like never before. Link in the description. Let Plotter help you conquer your stories. Welcome to the Chat Choose Your Own Adventure of this stream, where you, the chat, with the combination of dice roll, super chats, and just being in the chat, help me craft a short story outline. They're always weird, they're always wacky, and they're always a lot of fun, even if they harm my psyche, which is often the case. Let me just make sure the music is working for everyone. Perfect. So, as always, as we go through the dice rolling section, the high super chat starting at $1 can override any dice roll. For dice rolls, we have genre with science fiction, fantasy, mystery, thriller, horror, romance, parody, and chat choice. Chat choice is, of course, a free space where any comment in the chat will be able to make that decision. It's a free space for all of you. For lead character, we have father, billionaire, filmmaker, observer, monster hunter, and chat choice. For setting, we have present day, past, future, non-human world, alternate universe, and chat choice. For theme or style, we have passing the torch, exploration, grief, hubris, acceptance, and chat choice. For wildcard, we have nuke, wings, fridge, as in refrigerator, nachos, narwhal, and chat choice. I'm going to roll a dice to pick an option from each of these categories. Once again, high super chat starting at $1 can override any dice roll. And once we're in the outlining portion, once we have all the dice rolls and the objectives chosen, high super chat starting at $5 can introduce a twist of any kind. When it comes to the super chats, you're not restricted by the options I have here or what's going on in the story. So if I'm at the very end of a story and you decide, hey, add in a cat boy somewhere, I'm gonna have to do it, even if it sucks. And my goal in all of this is it's a writing exercise for me. I try to make it work. I try to make the best plot possible out of the insanity that's given. And Legatus is saying, just watch. Jed is now going to write a story about Ents being afraid of the fog as it transforms into smog and chokes its life away. That's a good story. That's absolutely a good story. We'll see if it turns out that way with dice rolls, super chats, and whatnot. Legatus, with beavers being its mortal enemy. That'll be funny. That'll actually be pretty funny. But let's dive into the first dice rolls. Let me just refresh everything, making sure we're all set. Perfect. So we're going to roll for genre, with our options being science fiction, fantasy, mystery, thriller, horror, romance, parody, and chat choice. What do we have? 4. Romance. I think this is the only the second time we've ever gotten a romance in, I don't know, 22 times of doing this? I've done this a lot. Damn. Dash, are the Canadians going to fine the beavers for violating the Ents? They might. I don't know if anybody else besides me is a How I Met Your Mother fan. I absolutely love How I Met Your Mother. Yes, even with the ending. And there's the Robin Sparkles kids show that they show part of, where it's these two teenage girls played by 30-year-old women, of course, who had pet beavers that they sang about their beavers, and they did math questions. It was so funny when Alan Thicke's like, how much wood can your beaver eat? That's just what that reminded me of, since Robin Sparkles was a Canadian pop star and Disney star equivalent. But we've got romance. For lead character, we have father, billionaire, filmmaker, observer, monster hunter, and chat choice. 4. Observer. Okay. No ideas so far, but we'll see. We'll keep going. For setting, we have present day, past, future, non-human world, alternate universe, and chat choice. That's 3 4s in a row. Alright, I'm thinking this digital die might be loaded. Alright, so we have romance, observer, in a non-human world. The dice are possessed. How did Legatus over on the kick side? I need to stop doing kick, because it's just poor Legatus dealing with bots. I feel bad. Theme or style, we have passing the torch, exploration, hubris, acceptance, and chat choice. What do we got? What is wrong with the dice today? Alright, I'm going to put hubris, but I'm going to roll multiple times. It's not to pick the wild card. I just want to see if I'm still getting 4s. There is a disproportionate amount of 4s, but as soon as I start not applying the 4s or the dice rolls, it stops being 4 every time. Alright, we're gonna actually do it rigged, Legatus. Yeah, it kind of looks rigged. But it's not rigged in my favor, because I have no fucking clue what to do with these objectives. Alright, wild card. We have nuke, wings, refrigerator, nachos, narwhal, and chat choice. Oof. I was really hoping it wasn't a 4. Alright, let me copy over these objectives while you think about if you want to modify anything. Alright, we have a romance about an observer in a non-human world. I think I already did non-human. Yeah, I already did. So we just need theme and style, hubris, and wings. Perfect. Okay, so a romance about an observer in a non-human world with a theme of hubris, and wings. Alright, I'm having an idea. Legatus, can you list those picks in the chat, please? Sure, I absolutely can. And Algrim the Strong with a $20 super chat. Thank you, my friend, saying this week's Crackerjack character, the dash-tarded Denantor of the decidedly Decidious. Adam has the double Ds, but thanks to Dash, Jed now reigns as king of the quadruple Ds. God help us all. Oh my god. The dash-tardedly Denantor. I feel like I'm Beardo or Dermy reading that. Okay. I think we can keep in that he's an observer, but he's gonna be called the... Wow. Alright, let me put that in perfect. Thank you for the $20, Algrim the Strong. Alright, let me look up. I know what most of those words mean. It's just the one that I'm having trouble pronouncing that I'm not 100% sure on. It's the pronunciation that I'm having the problem with. Yeah, modifier. It's a chemical agent. Okay. Just call him the D4. Algrim? Okay, we can just call him the D4. But, or the quadruple Ds. But yeah, it's a chemical agent. Denantier. Still denatured. It's the pronunciation that I need more than anything else. I'm looking up the pronunciation. Alright.
Denature.
Denature. Okay. That one I can handle. Okay, denature. The dash-tardedly denature of the decidedly Decidious. Denatured. Okay. Let me get wings over here. I had it finished with wings. But he's the denature. Okay, so yeah, he's the chemical agent causing the problems. Judas Goat Barbecue with the $10 super chat saying, can we change the theme to science fiction instead of romance? We absolutely can. Thank you for the $10 super chat. Let's go sci-fi here. All right, so now we have a sci-fi story about an observer. Oh yeah, that's what you're saying. He's the denature, so he can't be an observer. Absolutely right. That's what you're trying to say there. So, a sci-fi story about the dastardly denature of the decidedly Decidious. So, yeah, he's a reactionary influence on the world, I think is a good way of putting it, because of denature. Okay, and it's in a non-human world with a theme of hubris and wings of some kind. Alright, without the romance element, that makes it a lot easier.
Deciduous.
Decidulous. I apologize, I've been pronouncing that wrong this whole time. Decidulous. So, in a sci-fi setting, how do I make it more sci-fi? What I'm thinking about, chat, right in here, with the applications that we have, Ginger Norseman, it's for the best, last time turned into a love story. Yeah, the last romance didn't turn out so well. Algrim, technically I made it up, it's bad grammar, but I don't care, it works, he kills trees. Okay, thank you. Okay, so you weren't trying to make it... I feel a lot better since you're saying you made that up. I feel a lot better. So we'll call him dastardly or D4 or something like that. That bad dash man. Okay, so I don't need to focus too much, but he kills trees. Okay, he kills trees. That does change the idea I have a little bit, but we'll make it work. Dash in the chat finally responded. A winged scientist observer wants to denature the living fog so the ground can be seen below, but ends up making the fog eat trees. The ground can be seen. That's interesting. What I was going to go for is a fish version of Daedalus and Icarus. So I was going to have, fish people living on an aquatic world who are trying to figure out how to fly. And I think we can make that work. And I like the idea of tying it into the fog, though, like you're saying, Dash. And so, yeah, the hubris would be thinking that you could change the fog. Let me think. Winged people. Okay, so winged aliens or winged creatures on this fantasy world, but it's sci-fi, so winged aliens, how are they living above the clouds? I'd say high mountain ranges, and the fog is so thick that it's really dangerous to fly below the fog because of, deep crevasses, ravines, spiky pinnacles, and stuff like that. So it's not safe to just go fly down there. It's not safe, but the scientists and the people, these bird aliens, want to see the surface because they're running out of room. We'll say that they can only live on mountain peaks, so of course their population's going to be a problem. And then they try to fix the fog, like you're saying, but that ends up just burning trees, and the fog... We'll have the fog go away at the end, and it's just, a hellscape below of rotting trees. I think that's an interesting thing. Gets a lot of the same themes as Daedalus, or Daedalus, depending on how you pronounce it. Hubris is definitely in there with a bittersweet, tragic ending. I like that. Dash, the world would be layer of liquid and a foggy layer of microorganisms and seaweed trees below. A layer of liquid and a foggy layer of microorganisms and seaweed trees below. World could be... It's a really interesting idea, but I think I'd get distracted by a cool idea like that. I think I'm going to go forward with what we have at this point, but I think we have a really cool idea right now. And as an aside for people, we are now at $30 through our threshold to $100. When $100 is reached in a Chat Choose Your Own Adventure segment, cumulatively from the stream, I schedule a second stream called Story Forge, where I actually start to write out this short story in full detail with all of you live, while my incredible wife, Dr. Rachel, draws some exclusive artwork for it. At the end, both the short story and the artwork will be available to all members of the YouTube channel. So we're $30 into that $100 tier to make that work. Oceanic world with strata. I still think we need the mountains for something physical for the bird aliens to stand on. I think that's important. But yeah, it could be oceanic below. The ocean can absolutely play a part. Let's switch over into the timeline view. Bring up this. I'm actually going to go back real quick. I want to have this copied so I don't have to type this out. Alright, so I'm thinking to get a little bit more of the Icarus vibe. The first part of this chapter will be, dastardly. It doesn't get so dastardly if he has a son, though, so maybe I won't do that. I was gonna go for, his son's missing, and that's why he's pushing so hard for this. We can go with something else. Fullness. The dastardly, I'm going to call him D4 going forward. The dastardly denature of the decidedly deciduous swoops over the many narrow mountain peaks past the flocks of his winged kin. The avian... I don't need to go into this much detail, but the avian kingdom fills every square inch, crowding each other for food and space to rest. D4 refuses to give up his space to anyone. Ego evident. Legatus, at least this is not a similar sci-fi where there's a war between animal and plant life, where plant life won in the end. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm sure you're referencing a real thing right there, but I can't think of it off the top of my head what you're referencing. Let me see. Thick layer of fog blocks their way down. Stares at the fog in anger. There would be silly animal traders that side with the plants. I keep wanting to think that you're talking about Avatar because I want to make fun of Avatar, but I don't think you guys are talking about Avatar. Alright, plan. Yeah, these section headings, they don't mean anything in the way that I'm using it, but it's nice for organizational purposes. Actually, I'm going to do crisis. Domino effect. A lot of creatures knock into each other and fall into the cloud layer, into the fog layer. Some come back, but the rock and the terrain is so unpredictable that many crashed and died. We'll have that as its own section. Just a bunch of bird people knocking into each other and flying off the edge. Alright, we'll call this one plan. D4 stares at the fog, knowing he could be knocked into it someday. Needs to clear the fog, or his death will come. An idea strikes him. Alright, so yeah, for chapter 2, I think we're gonna go with him figuring out the chemical agent affecting the fog. We've got the sci-fi, or we're about to really get into the sci-fi. We've got the wings, the hubris, the non-human world, the name. So we're on track. So yeah, chapter 2 is figuring out the problem, or figuring out the chemical process, deploying it, and then 3 will be the fog starting to clear, and you know, there's going to be sounds coming from below of torment of the other creatures dying as a result too, and a few scouts might go down there and report back to the trees there's something wrong with the trees, and then the fog clears at the end and they see the hell that they've wrought on their world. Legatus, there has been some stories where there was a war on a planet between animals and plants, and in the end, all planets and insects were killed by the plants. Planet supremacy, environmentalist utopia. God, that's plant utopia supremacy. That's insane. That's absolutely not good storytelling. That's just Avatar. Alright. Dash, did you see Jed protesters are marching for the algae and sabotaging the DC reflecting pool? I knew there was something going on with the DC reflecting pool, like the paint was chipping off in a weird way, but it wouldn't surprise me if there are people marching for the algae. That whole situation's way more of a mess than it needs to be. But again, not gonna go too much into politics. Alright, chapter 2, we'll just call it science. D4 gets precious lab time. Most science focused on surviving / navigating the fog or food production, getting time for outlandish research like fog dissipation was difficult. Judas says, this kind of reminds me of the Rush song, The Trees, where the maples and oaks are fighting each other over access to the sunlight. Great song. I'm thinking, Dash, if you make a AI song after this, it might need to be a parody of the song The Trees, if AI is able to do that, of course. That sounds interesting, Judas. I'll have to look that up. Alright, fog dissipation was difficult. Begins research. Chemical study. Wings folded when not flying between lab tiers. Just reminding myself that he has wings. Alright, lab tiers. Alright, so yeah, I'm gonna have breakthrough, deployment, first issues, scouts, revealed. And I think that gets everything. Yeah, we've got the dastardly villain. We've got the sci-fi, the non-human world, and the hubris. I think the hubris is definitely there. Alright, breakthrough. There's not a Y. Dash, the AIs try to scold you for imitation, but there are ways. Of course they try to scold you. They should just embrace it, because that's all they're good for. Just embrace it. Alright, breakthrough. D4 finally finds a way to dissipate fog. To be fair, there's... That might be why the seaweed is a good idea, Dash, that you're saying. That might be a really good idea, because trees need sunlight, and if the fog's this thick for this long, the trees wouldn't be able to survive. So I'm gonna have to, go back and grab that idea. Algrim, to Legatus's point, the morphobots, insectivorous robot plants, eating some of the Insecticons in Transformers G1. Transformers lore is just wild. Just absolutely insane. My only experience with Transformers are the Michael Bay movies and Bumblebee. They're not great movies. They're really not. But yeah, that's all my experience with them is. Alright, so finally finds a way to dissipate fog. Breaks apart. I'm gonna do some research super duper fast. Hydrogen. How do trees respond to pure hydrogen? Could be bioluminescent microorganisms in the fog that create light for the trees. Ooh, that's really interesting. I don't know if they could create energy for photosynthesis, but just the idea of those microorganisms being bioluminescence is really interesting. When trees are exposed to hydrogen, that triggers responses. Because hydrogen gas is a mild anti-oxygen exposure, typically in the form of hydrogen, which water gas can have the following effects: stress mitigation, growth promotion. Wow, it actually helps. I thought maybe pure hydrogen would be a problem. Maybe pure oxygen. These are alien trees. I'm going to say they don't respond well to pure hydrogen, because it's going to be separated from the oxygen. So it breaks apart the H2O bonds in the fog. As a side effect, it kills most microorganisms in the fog too. Excitement. Alright, I am going to shut down Kick, because, you know, it's just a bunch of bots. If anybody is legitimately watching on Kick, please let me know in the next few seconds, and I'll leave it up. But, yeah, the Kick chat is just bots and poor Legatus. So, I'll give you a couple seconds if you are in Kick, because there are a few people on Kick. Now, Dash has gone over there. Come on, Dash. Dropping the bees. So, if you two are enjoying Kick, that's great. So I'll leave it up. But, yeah, if it's ever just bots, I'm just gonna shut it down. Alright, as a side effect, it kills most microorganisms in the fog too. Excitement. Reports breakthrough. You're back to YouTube, Dash? Alright, yeah, if I don't see anything from the Kick chat in the next few minutes, I'm gonna shut it down. Alright, breakthrough. Deployment. Alright, permission from scientific and government authorities to deploy the nature agent. Alright, spreads like wildfire through the fog. Deployed at night so they could see the bioluminescent. If I were actually writing this out, I would mention earlier that the microorganisms were bioluminescent. Organisms dying, and their lights going out with agent spread. Legatus, underscore goes to Kick, Kit gets a bot, Dash returns to YouTube, Kick bot is gone. Coincidence? I don't know. Dash, do you have something to say for yourself? Are you the bot? You and Legatus are both bots just talking to each other, imitating life? Dash, the bots are attracted to Legatus. That's true. Alright. It keeps trying to translate Legatus, but failing to, because I get the little translation icon on YouTube. It's pretty funny. Alright, joy. Celebration. They celebrate the end of fog and their imprisonment mint in the sky. Repercussions. Sensitive avian ears pick up horrible sound, screeching unbearably. All the avians, I'm just gonna call them avians, all the avians rush outside and out of their dog piles, because they kind of have to look down at the dark fog. Something down there is screaming horribly. It echoes from the deep, bringing fear. It was the sound of death. We'll call this one Scouts. A few brave scouts volunteer to descend into the fog to end the screaming, or at least find its cause disappear. Eventually, let me add in D4, struggling with the sound, but no guilt. Eventually, a couple scouts, a scout, we'll have it be a scout, returns, covered in burns and chattering nonsense. Lost his mind. Reports a dead world. Alright, reveal. Fog finally dissipates. Screaming had ended, replaced by perfect silence. Still, the avians waited with bated breath for the fog to clear. What greeted them? Greeted them was a horror. The world was indeed dead. All the water trees had wilted. Clogging the shoreline. The base of the rocky spires that sprang from the oceans were surrounded by the corpses of all the lower animals. Even the wide plains with many plants and animals were all still graveyards. Without the micro organisms that fed them energy. That the microorganisms that fed them energy. And with the chemical poisoning that rained down, none survived. The avians might have bought themselves more room, but it came at the price of the planet they relied on. All right. Let me just add in one more thing about D4. D4 satisfied with the room. So I'm having it that he didn't learn his lesson. That makes it all the more tragic. The rest of the avians are horrified. Alright, how do we feel about that short story today? It's definitely an interesting one. A very interesting one. And not in a crazy, unpredictable, I'm not gonna sleep tonight kind of way. In a genuinely, this is kind of an interesting concept. So the story we have right now are there are these avian aliens that are living at the top of mountain peaks above a fog layer that they can't safely pass through into the lower lands. They're running out of space. Just a few mountain peaks for an entire civilization isn't enough, even if they can fly. The crisis is only getting worse when a bunch of aliens are pushed off the edge and fall into the fog, many of them not returning. So D4, as Dash puts it, a misunderstood scientist tries to figure out a way to make more room for his species. And the only way he can do this is by dissipating the fog. So he gets some time at the scientific labs and comes up with a chemical agent to dissipate the fog. And the plan works. He's able to get it to deploy, killing all the microorganisms, the bioluminescent ones, spreading it throughout the cloud layer. The problem is that cloud layer, the microorganisms in it, and the lower life relies upon those microorganisms, and the chemical agent, with the way it dissolves chemical bonds, becomes basically poison rain, all of which kills all life on the surface. But D4 doesn't care. He's got the more space. He's gonna have his own house now, and that's all that matters to him. But how are we feeling about that, guys? Is it an interesting concept? Did we do it justice? Any last minute twists that you guys want to implement? If not, I feel pretty happy leaving this one, setting it in stone here. Let me check. Yeah, Dash, of course, is going to think that Dastardly Hero is misunderstood. Of course he is. But I'm not going to fault him for that. When a character's based off you, you want to wish the best. I mean, it's not based on you, Dash. It's not. It's not based on your name, at least. That definitely isn't the case. But D4, I think, could be an interesting character. With a full book, he could absolutely get some interesting screen time that I'd be interested in exploring. Dash, you're happy with it? Awesome. Just waiting for maybe Ginger Norseman. I think it's good. Sorry for being so quiet. Everyone else was on a roll. It's all good, Ginger Norseman. I was getting plenty from the chat, so you're all good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. So yeah, we're gonna end it there. Put that bow on this story, on the story of the dastardly denature of the decidedly deciduous. Well, that was a fun one, mainly due to the super chats. I didn't really have a direction to go besides making a play off of Daedalus and Icarus until the super chats came in. So thank you to both Algrim and Judas for making that story happen, because I actually really enjoyed that idea, and it's all due to your input. That brings that section and this stream to an end, though. For my week coming up, it's going to be a lot of Mass Effect 1 whenever I get a chance to stream. Then Saturday Night Drive-In, as always, this Saturday, probably at 6 p.m. Eastern, but Adam might need to have his hair cut, so it might be at 7 p.m. And we're going to be talking about Point Break. Should be a good discussion. Tryhards at 10 p.m. on Friday night, Eastern, 10 p.m. Eastern, should be a good discussion. Plenty of things to talk about. Some of us may have seen Supergirl by then. I'll hopefully have seen it, but I don't know when exactly I'll get around to. Definitely before Sunday, I'll get around to it for Roundtable. And then Rider Flight next Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Dash said, I'll have to change my name to underscore now to not be associated with this villain. Algrim, thanks, Jed. Regards to the doctor. I'll let her know. Thank you, Algrim. And yeah, thank you all so much for watching, whether or not it was on the YouTube side or the Kick side. I greatly appreciate it. Thanks to Ginger Norseman, Dash, Legatus, and Hammond for being so active in the chat. And special thanks to Judas Goat Barbecue and Algrim the Strong for their super chats. It's greatly appreciated. But that's all that I have for today. If you enjoyed this stream, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. The more support this channel gets, the closer we are to publishing the Endless Frontier novels. Until then, have a stellar day, and stay curious.